as hospitalizations also hit new highs in many states. Among the hardest hit by the latest COVID-19 surge are the hotly contested states such as Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin that play an important role in deciding the election results. A record surge of coronavirus cases in the United States is pushing hospitals to the brink of capacity and killing up to 1,000 people a day, with much of the country's attention focused on Tuesday's presidential election. The United States broke that single-day record for new coronavirus infections, reporting 91,248 new cases as 21 states reported the highest daily number of hospitalized COVID-19 patients since the pandemic started. The White House Coronavirus Task Force said the nation is heading in the wrong direction, and 12 states set one-day records for new cases. Over 229,000 people have died from COVID-19 in the United States, the world's highest death total. There are no crowds at Disneyland, still shut down by the coronavirus. Fewer fans attended the World Series this year than at any other time in the past century. But big concerts are also cancelled. But it's a different story in Trumpland. Thousands of President Trump supporters regularly crammed together at campaign rallies around the country. Masks optional and social distancing frowned upon. Trump rallies are among the nation's biggest events, being held in defiance of crowd restrictions designed to stop the virus from spreading. This at a time when public health experts are advising people to think twice, even about inviting many guests for Thanksgiving dinner. A county judge in El Paso in Texas has implemented a 2-week shutdown of all non-essential services beginning at midnight today. The outcome of the 2020 presidential election is more uncertain than any time in modern history, and nowhere is that uncertainty on better display than in Texas, a state that could very well go Democratic for the first time since 1976. Turnout in Texas this year will greatly surpass any previous cycle. 4 years ago, just shy of 9 million Texans cast a vote for president, amounting to 51.4% of the voting eligible population. That's among the lowest turnout in the nation. But early voting in Texas is poised to surpass total turnout of the 2016 election, with 1 day remaining for early voting, and that is today. Almost 9 million Texans have voted, which is 95% of the total turnout, including Election Day 4 years ago. Texas leads the U.S. by this metric. Texas also leads the country in total early votes. And unlike other states, Texas doesn't track the political party of voters casting early ballots. We do have Trump administration officials visiting the border wall just days before the big election night in hopes of sharing the progress that has been made in one of the president's most prominent campaign promises. The old political heartbreaker, the presidential battleground of Florida, lured the two White House contenders to the same city yesterday as both confronted some of their biggest political vulnerabilities in a state that is once again shaping up as the most elusive prize in next week's election. Both rallied their supporters in the closely fought state of Florida yesterday, highlighting their contrasting approaches to the resurgent coronavirus pandemic as the clock ticks down to Election Day. At least a dozen people who were overcome by heat during the rally in Tampa, that was Donald Trump's rally, they were taken to a local hospital. The election rallies of President Trump are super spreader events, according to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, also alleging that and questioning the U.S. president's efforts in addressing the challenges posed by the pandemic. At least 6 people were killed in the southeast of the United States and more than 2 million people without power after Hurricane Zeta slammed into the Gulf Coast. And it is now much weaker. Mexico's Day of the Dead celebration this weekend won't be the same in a year so marked by death in a country where more than 90,000 people have died of COVID-19. In this news out of Mexico City. In the latest chapter of ex-Nissan CEO Carlos Ghosn's dramatic downfall, 2 Americans are about to face Japan's notoriously tough justice system. The U.S. State Department has approved the extradition of Michael and Peter Taylor, who are accused of helping Ghosn flee Japan. A 5th and final scheduled day of witness testimony in the extradition case of Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou in a Canadian court will conclude today, although lawyers for both sides proposed days to be added to hear all witnesses. The United States revealed it had seized Iranian missiles shipped to Yemen and sold 1.1 million barrels of previously seized Iranian oil that was bound for Venezuela. Israelis lit thousands of candles yesterday to mark the 25th anniversary of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was shot dead by a Jewish extremist as he pursued peace with the Palestinians. Talks between Israel and Lebanon over disputed maritime borders were productive and are expected to resume next month. And at least 140 migrants trying to reach Europe drowned off the coast of Senegal when their boat caught fire and capsized. It marked the deadliest shipwreck recorded in 2020. Secretary General Antonio Guterres has proposed a plan with benchmarks that would allow the more than 18,000-strong UN peacekeeping force in Congo to progressively transfer its activities to Congolese authorities. Syrian President Bashar Assad met with a high-level Russian delegation advocating for jointly hosting an international conference on refugees in the capital of Damascus next month. U.S. official warning that NATO ally Turkey faced a risk of sanctions after it defiantly tested Russian S-400 air defense systems. And anger at France has deepened in Muslim-majority countries over a Charlie Hebdo cartoon showing Turkey's president drinking beer. The Turkish president's bellicose rhetoric towards France over the publication of caricatures of Prophet Muhammad may have contributed to a climate of anger that led to the deadly terror attack in the city of Nice, according to terrorism experts. French President Emmanuel Macron declared that France is under attack. The attack occurred near the Basilica of Notre Dame in Nice, and 2 women and a man were killed. At least 2 of the 3 victims, including the woman who were reportedly decapitated, and they were inside the church. The investigation into that gruesome attack by a Tunisian man who killed them continues, as the second suspect is in custody today, and France has heightened its security alert amid religious and geopolitical tensions. We do have the scenes in Paris resembling a regular lazy weekend morning, but Parisians, along with the rest of this nation of 67 million, confined to their homes as of today for the second time in 7 months under a presidential decree ratified by Parliament in this news out of Paris. School children aged 6 all over France will have to wear face masks in class under new rules rolled out as part of the country's second lockdown that begins today. Bars, restaurants and services shut down in France and Germany. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, heckled by opposition MPs during a speech to Parliament when she took aim at groups spreading lies and disinformation. And Pope Francis is halting his public general audiences and will limit participation at Christmas and other upcoming masses amid a surge of coronavirus cases in Italy and the Vatican. Starting next week, he will resume live streaming of his weekly catechism classes from his library in the apostolic capital, as he did during the COVID-19 lockdown during the spring and summer. After a summer of hope, Europe looks set for a tragic winter. The dream of keeping the pandemic in check with limited sacrifices is gone. Governments are readying themselves for a new round of tough containment measures. New Zealanders voted to legalize euthanasia in a binding referendum, but preliminary results released show they likely would not legalize recreational marijuana use. The tank traps on the beaches of Kinmen Island are a stark reminder that Taiwan lives under the constant threat of a Chinese invasion. China will promote Taiwan's reunification with the mainland and peaceful cross-straits development. According to a meeting of the leadership of China's Communist Party, and China's leaders vowed to become self-reliant technology power and continue defense capabilities as Communist Party leader Xi Jinping closed a 4-day government meeting aimed at outlining policy plans for the next 5 years. We do have New Delhi awaiting Beijing's confirmation on a date for the 8th round of military diplomatic level dialogue on disengagement in East Ladakh, but it is known to have been rejected, and the conditions posed by the People's Liberation Army for the withdrawal of Chinese troops from Finger Four mountainous spur on the north banks of the Pangong Tso. 2 prominent Indian Americans are among Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's co-advisors. Dr. Vivek Murthy, the former U.S. Surgeon General who was appointed by President Obama, and Harvard economist Rajat Chetty among those who have briefed Biden on economic issues. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on Radio Caravan. And it is skipper Steve Smith of the Rajasthan Royals who's won the toss this morning and opted to bowl against the Kings 11 Punjab in Abu Dhabi today. A day after India expressed solidarity with France after a teacher was beheaded and French President Macron was subjected to personal attacks, posters slamming him for defending the rights to publish cartoons surfaced in Mumbai and Bhopal. India did see over 48,000 new coronavirus infections being reported in a day. The national recovery rate has crossed 91% and active cases have fallen below the 6 lakh mark. Delhi recording its worst air quality day, but a significant improvement is likely in the next 2 days. Amid high security, 71 assembly constituencies across 16 districts have gone to the polls in the first phase of Bihar's assembly elections. The Senate in Islamabad was informed that Dr. Afia Siddiqui, a Pakistani neuroscientist convicted by a U.S. court on the charge of shooting at the army and the FBI officers while in custody in Afghanistan, has finally signed a mercy petition. And we do have thousands of Pakistanis pouring out of prayer services to join anti-France protests yesterday and today as the French president's vow to protect the right there as the Muslim world continues to roil with this. And Pakistanis observed Eid Milad al-Nabi across the country, with leaders highlighting the importance of spreading Prophet Muhammad's teachings among people. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all.